Hi, guys. Welcome to the first episode of the Graviton podcast. We have with us as our guest of honor Harshal Madnani, who is the young and dynamic founder of Xade Finance, which is ready to launch 4 new exciting products into the DeFi and payment space, which we will discuss shortly. I first met Harshal at Graviton 2022, which was during the India Blockchain Week season. And I remember it clearly because it was one of the first times I really felt like an investor. Harshal has that capacity to make you feel important when you first meet him. And there's really, he leaves an impression. And I remember this one other reason. I think we ran into Parth Bhalla, who is the founder of 3Lee.io. And we were having this discussion about early stage founders in the Web3 space. And he made this interesting observation. He said, he started building Web3 products when he was 12. And he said, you guys are looking at the wrong age group. You guys should look at 16-year-old kids who are building today. And I remember running into Harshal within 15 minutes of that conversation, which was just brilliant. And that's when he started winning us over with his first pitch about Xade Finance. So Harshal, why don't you walk us through first about your, the journey that led you into Web3 entrepreneurship? How did you get into how did you visualize yourself as the founder and CEO of a decentralized product?
Sure. So thanks for Shom, and thanks a lot for the pleasant words. And so, it was really great meeting you during the weathering event. And, for me, like I got into the Web3 space, crypto space in 2019, like everybody else. I mean, who doesn't like to make quick money? Bitcoin, Ethereum, just put money into it. Actually, just Bitcoin.
Did you buy a lot of Dogecoin by any chance? That's when Did you end up buying a lot of Dogecoin during the initial bull run? That's how I got into crypto.
Yeah, definitely. Elon Musk was someone who got me into buying a lot of Dogecoin. So yeah, definitely. I mean, I did buy a lot of Dogecoin and did buy a lot of Shiba Inu, but I'll come to that later.
Yes.
So yeah, got into 2019, I bought Bitcoin. Investing is not really my game, to be honest. I'm a restless kid. So I got into trading. 2020, I got into trading. It was lockdown. I really had nothing better to do except, coding and this. This is like, I do enjoy coding, but this is where I get the fun, right? 2021, I realized trading is not really my game as well. I need to be faster. Humans are slow. We need to be faster. So I got into something known as algorithmic trading and trading with trading bots.
Okay.
And since I was experiencing, I was using a lot of trading bots, I was interacting with the DeFi space a lot. For me, DeFi is something, it is as big as the internet or the steam engine or as the computers. It's that big of an innovation because it's solving the efficiency and the security problem of the traditional financial system. It's a legacy system which will get replaced. It will get replaced because DeFi is better. But, when I was using DeFi was nowhere near the vision of replacing banks. Vitalik created Ethereum so that people can create financial applications in order to replace traditional banks. DeFi, since the word emerged in 2018, it was made, to make a lot of money and just, a buzzword, but it has a lot more meaning. It is a meaning. It was created always to be a banking alternative.
Yes. But, so, the first understanding of DeFi that I had in any format was that the literal meaning, you remove a centralized authority, you solve the double spending problem. Why do I pay somebody else or an entire industry to manage my finances when computers are already equipped enough to execute that today, was the general thought process. But what you are doing and what the rest of the industry is doing today is also sort of building on utility and efficiency models, things that can be done better by removing a centralized authority while using the advantages offered by blockchain tech. So you're still in school, right?
Actually, I am.
That makes this conversation all the more interesting. So what were some of your primary information sources and what gave you the impulse? Because I don't remember me knowing the word or the phrase algorithmic trading. I'm not sure if it was a valid catchphrase when I was in school. I graduated 12th standard in 2008. So this is a much older time. But what was your first exposure towards knowledge of this space other than speculative trading news?
To be honest, I was just a kid on the internet, like almost all of us out there. Everybody, when they're on the internet, they're just a kid on the internet. When you are exploring internet, so you can do two things with the internet. You can either watch YouTube videos of Mr. Beast all day long, or you can get information. You can play games, or you can start trading. You can, you can watch videos, play the games, or you can know how to build that. So I sort of went the other way.
So you
So yeah,
had that sentiment inside you that you're more of a builder than a consumer, which was a driving point behind this journey.
to be honest, yes, yeah.
That's interesting to know. Okay, go on. You were talking about the advantages that DeFi offers over traditional banking.
Yeah, I mean, so DeFi, as we all know, it's more efficient, it's cheaper, it's faster, it's more secure, it's more transparent than a traditional finance system. But come on, I want a savings account. I won't go to DeFi. I will go to my bank. I want to take a loan. I'll go to the bank. I want to take an EMI. I want to buy this new nice laptop. I will go to the bank. I cannot go to a DeFi protocol. I want to send payments. I will go to the traditional bank. I want to trade stocks. I want to buy the stock of my favorite company. I'll go to traditional banks. I'll not go to my DeFi protocol. Well, now the question is why. The first thing I would say, it has no real world utility, no real world connection.
Yeah.
So I cannot spend my cryptocurrency. Like I can use it to buy any shit coin. I can use it to buy any NFTs, but I cannot use it to buy things with real utility.
So
I
what you
cannot
mean
buy.
to say, just from a very layman perspective, because my neighborhood supermarket does not accept Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrencies, that makes it a little less utilitarian for me to sort of invest, borrow, or save in crypto.
Exactly. I would like to say, like, like there's a quote from the Big Bang Theory. I'm a big nerd. So the quote is, Bitcoin is a currency which you cannot hold, which you cannot spend. So that's about Bitcoin. So I wanted to change that, right? The second biggest issue I would say is, like, so this is my personal experience in DeFi. So I wanted to open a position in Aave, in Polygon, on Polygon network. So now let me tell you the entire process. So first I have to basically go to my centralized exchange. I need to deposit my fiat currency,
Yes.
need to convert it into USDC. Then I needed to withdraw it onto Ethereum, use a network. So like I started with $1, lost around lost around 4 cents while this conversion. Then I lose another 5 cents while I'm trying to bridge to Polygon. And then I need to first install MetaMask on my browser. I'm a mobile first user, right? I mean, I'm not really sure I've ever used I've used a desktop application before, before DeFi. I was always a mobile user. I'm always a mobile user, right? And then I had to install MetaMask as a Chrome extension. I'm on MacBook. I use Safari. So I'm not really used to Chrome. I had to install Chrome. I had to install a browser extension. To be honest, I did not even know like something like browser extensions even exist in DeFi. Then I need to enter Aave. Then I got into Aave.com. Then I had to convert. So after bridging, I get my USDC on my MetaMask. Then I need to enter how much slippage I can take. And turns out I cannot borrow against any stable assets. I cannot borrow against my house. I cannot borrow against my car. But I can borrow against Bone in You. I can borrow against Elon in You. Coins which have no real utility. Coins which have no real value. So I can borrow against that, but I cannot borrow against my real estate. And finally, after a lot of work, after facing 11% slippage, and God knows how much gas fee I had to pay, after waiting for, let's say, 30, 40, 1 hour, 30 minutes, 40 minutes or an hour, I finally opened my position in Aave. So that's my usual day in DeFi, right? And forget it if you're trying to bridge from Ethereum to Polygon to Solana. So just forget that. I'm not even
It's
going to
like the
non-ETH.
early days of the internet, when before personal computing really became mainstream. Interacting with the internet itself used to be seen as a big challenge, and then people came into the space, simplified it from a UX perspective, simplified it in terms of how efficient the entire system turned out to be. And the third takeaway that I got from your ideas, the ability to put up real world assets as collateral is something that was traditionally been missing from the DeFi space so far. So, and that's something that you're trying to change with SABX, which is one of your verticals. Now we'll gradually try to, shift the conversation into more about how Xade is changing the direction which DeFi is taking. Before that, a quick segue. We at Graviton, GravityX Capital, and with DYDX Foundation, which is really big into the decentralized exchange space, we ran a nationwide study known as the State of DeFi India report. The report is now live right now, and the objective of that report was to study user behavior related to various DeFi platforms, as in understanding how different users interact with DeFi products today, what interests them the most. Lending and borrowing are interesting behavior areas to be explored, and what you are doing to disrupt that space is really interesting, which is why I want you to talk a little bit more in detail about Remitex, which is your solution for remitting money, about SABX, about Derivex, and about ShopX. I hope I got the names right. All right.
So yeah, so with Xade, I mean, like, you mentioned 4 of our protocols, and thanks a lot for it. The best part is you'll find it all under one roof, all under our super mobile application, which I have with me over here, Xade Finance. So this is Xade. It's all under one roof. So I mentioned 4 protocols, but like, your bank doesn't, tell you to have 4 different protocols. You'll all find it under one place. This is Xade for you. I just have it in my hand. The power of finance in your hands. So
Okay.
like, I'll dive deeper into it. So what is
What I want
Remitex?
you to keep in mind is sort of, let's say, if somebody is watching this podcast who is a traditional banker or a traditional investor, or an HNI, a high net worth individual who is used to storing his money with in banks in the Cayman Islands or Switzerland, and they are trying to actively explore legitimate ways of trading within the Web3 space and making sure that the money grows for them, which is the end objective of investors. How do you explain your product to them? How does Remitex change the game for them? How does Sabex replace the traditional banking infrastructure for them?
Well, for traditional guys, I mean, the only way we pitch this is like, for DeFi guys, we say this like, DeFi is so seamless that your grandma can use it without even realizing that they have entered the world of DeFi. And for traditional guys, we just say it's everything your bank does, but better, in a manner which you can see where your money is going. You can see what is happening with your money. If you don't trust us, you have custody of your own money. It's completely non-custodial. You don't trust our code, it's completely open source. You see exactly what happens with your money. You don't believe in the transactions we show, you can go into the block explorers and explore that. We are 100% transparent, we are 100% non-custodial, and I would say we are 100% easy to use. So if you're experienced with traditional finance, Xade is the app for you. It's very, very seamless. It's indistinguishable from the likes of Revolut or Monzo. It's that seamless. So if I was to explain DeFi or Xade to a non DeFi guy or a traditional person, I would just say Xade is your transparent super mobile application which provides all traditional banking services in a manner so seamless that your grandma can use it in a much better manner than your traditional bank does. Our features are better, our experience is better, and overall, well, we are better. So yeah.
No, I understand. So this is what I like about you in terms of you being the ideal spokesperson and CEO, or the face of the early stage Indian Web3 founder. But I also want to go into a little bit more detail. So on-chain remittance, why is it? I mean, what are the challenges associated with the traditional infrastructure today? So if I am a traditional investor trying to move money from one geography to the other, what I can think of off the top of my head, I have to keep in mind local regulations, local financial laws. I have to be compliant with KYC practices in both financial zones. Be eligible for an account in the geography that I'm applying to. So when you talk about decentralized finance in general, DeFi takes away a lot of this burden by default by opening up, as you rightly mentioned, my transactions are open for verification on a block explorer. There is a certain degree of anonymity and security that I get, which is sort of by default. But other than this, the challenges that you spoke of initially, as in the real world utility of the tokens that I'm transferring, the real world utility of the finances that I'm trading in, the real world utility of the assets that I'm either putting up as collateral or looking into as investable assets worth holding on to. How has DeFi helped overcome some of these challenges compared to the traditional space? How has DeFi evolved over the years from where it originally was, and how much of a role does Xade play in this process? As in, what are the differentiators that Xade brings into the market in terms of making of increasing utility of tradable assets in this space?
Yeah, sure. Well, so first of all, I would like to talk about the traditional payment system. I'm going to make it very, very simple. The 3 major issues in traditional payments. Number one, a lot of paperwork, way too much paperwork. Both the parties need to have a bank account. More than, I would say, 2 billion people, actually only 4 billion people in this world are banked. So that leaves only 50% are unbanked. So everybody needs to have a bank account. Both the parties need to have a bank account. Number three, banks charge very, very high fees, and they usually have a lot of settlement periods when sending money between two remote areas. Let's say when you're sending payments between Nigeria and India, it takes a settlement period of 3% and a fees between 2 to 4%. That's an average payment between India and Nigeria. So these were the 3 major things which we are facing while in traditional payments. But in DeFi, DeFi 2008, Bitcoin, a global electronic peer-to-peer system, one of the first utilities of DeFi was payments with Bitcoin. What was the issue with Bitcoin? People, no matter how much we evolve, we will still stick to, currencies which are backed by fiat currencies, or we always like to measure everything's value in fiat, right? So people don't really trust Bitcoin as a currency to hold. Maybe in the future they will, but right now they don't. Bitcoin is too volatile. Bitcoin number two, I would say, Bitcoin was, the Bitcoin network is very slow compared to other networks, for which stable coins and the Ethereum networks was created. But in DeFi payments, which we have right now, there are four major issues. So have you ever watched that video, like where you just copy a wrong address and the guy lost 100 Bitcoin?
I
Complex
think I've seen
addresses.
some. Yes.
Exactly. Complex addresses in DeFi, complex seed phrases. The 24 seed phrase, the 24 word seed phrase which MetaMask gives you, which you will never remember in your life. You will never remember your seed phrase. You will never
Or
remember the address.
I'll end up storing it in the wrong place and risk exposure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Complex addresses, complex seed phrases, high gas fees. The best part is, if I'm trying to send a stable coin, I need to buy the native token of the network, right? Like for example, I don't want to be exposed to volatility. Even if I'm holding Ethereum or Matic or any native currency for more than a second, I'm still being exposed to some sort of price volatility. I don't want that, right? So holding native tokens. So these are some major issues which which we have in payments in DeFi. So that's why we introduced RemitX, which allows you to send payments globally to any mobile number, email address, decentralized identity, which does not have a wallet yet, in a completely gasless manner in multiple fiat-backed stablecoins, such as USDC right now. But in the future, we also aim to introduce fiat-backed stablecoins for British pound, for the euro, and much, much more. So that's what RemitX is.
Interesting. So I like how you stayed true to your to solving that problem of between the unbanked and the banked. So people don't need a wallet. That's pretty great, because half the challenge in educating somebody about starting to trade in the Web3 space is to get them acquainted with the process of having a wallet, and then comes the seed phrase and everything else. So you take that off the market, and you introduced. You have the ability for people to remit stable coins, which also gives them peace of mind that they're backing a real world, they're trading in a real world backed asset. Great. How does SABEX change the banking space? SABEX is savings and borrowings exchange, and you mentioned that this is basically on-chain trading of no, actually you're the best person to explain SABEX to me before I sort of speculate all over the place.
Exactly. So with SABEX, so this is my first experience with lending and borrowing the DeFi space. So I was using Compound. So I borrowed, somebody explained me what is yield farming. So this was my first time I was getting into yield farming. I opened a position, I think it was USDC position. I don't really remember. The interest rate was 1% that day, 1.2% that day, I guess. The next day when I went to see the interest rate, it was 4.3%, I guess. So yeah, if you see that in the traditional banks, you probably see a lot of protests all around the country, something like that. But yeah, that's sort of pretty normal in DeFi.
The sort of volatility is something that we can keep expecting.
Volatility, exactly. Volatility is like, it's meh for us, to be honest. We are used to it. So, in DeFi money markets, first of all, let's talk about traditional money markets. I'm just going to mention three names: Lehman Brothers, Silicon Valley Bank, and I would like to say Signature Bank. Yeah,
Fair
I
enough.
guess Lehman Brothers and Silicon Valley Bank. Those two names are enough to explain traditional money markets.
We've covered both ends of a decade, so yeah, we're good.
Yeah. So, but with decentralized finance, DeFi makes it more efficient, makes it autonomous, makes it transparent, right? So that's awesome. But there are some major issues in DeFi savings and DeFi lending. So the major issues are the variable rate mechanism is not fit for household savings. Number two is you can borrow against any shitcoin in the world, but you cannot borrow against real world assets. And number three, as I would like to say, there are fixed rate protocols such as yield protocol or such as hi-fi finance, but they are not usually, they are not exposed to the market conditions. So these are the major things I see about the international in DeFi lending. One more thing is every asset in DeFi lending, in DeFi borrowing actually has the same interest rate. So having separate interest rate for separate asset classes is very, very important, as we see in the traditional banking sector. So, with Xade, it's all about connecting traditional finance and decentralized finance. We did something same over here. We took the best from traditional banks and we took the best from DeFi, combined it together to create SABEX, which is a savings protocol, which is created specifically to beat the inflation rate. The inflation rate is derived from the native region of the stablecoin. So if you are holding, let's say US dollar, if you are investing in the savings account of a US dollar, so you get the savings rate, which is more than the inflation rate of the US, and you'll get the savings rate. Now, the biggest question is, where do you get this yield from? In SABEX, you can borrow against multiple real-world tokenized real-world assets powered by our partners, or you can borrow against highly liquid ERC20 tokens, and in order so that the liquidity is maintained and so that the yield is actually generated up until the utilization ratio reaches 85, 0.85. The system will buy on-chain bonds such as treasury bonds provided by Ondo Finance, agriculture bonds provided by Blue Finance, so that the yield is always maintained. And all of this happens using our new interest rate mechanism, which is derived by both the fixed rate mechanism used by HiFi and yield, and by taking the variable rate from Aave and Compound, we combine it together to create a stable savings rate. So that's about SABEX.
Okay, so you have solved one part of the challenge, as I can see, with a fixed. I mean, you've solved the volatility challenge here. How is Xade bridging the gap wherein you mentioned in the DeFi space today? One of the challenges that you can't borrow against a real estate holding that you have, for example. So how is Xade fixing the gap between putting up real world assets that's collateral and what you can do today with your available DeFi avenues?
Exactly. So with this, I would like to say, Web3 is all about collaboration over competition. We cannot do everything in the DeFi space. We're not the experts of everything. Somebody is doing better in real world assets than us. So we said, why not partner with them? We partnered up with Roofstock on chain, Realty Finance, bring in tokenized real estate on chain because they're legally compliant.
These people are already in the business of tokenizing real world assets, real estate assets.
Exactly.
I think fractionalization is a big thing that's happening in real estate right now through this protocol.
Definitely. There are a lot of applications of tokenizing real world assets. Roofstock on chain, Realty Finance, 4K protocol, Blue Finance. These are just a few names of our partners who are bringing in real world assets on chain. So
this
that's what
interestingly increases your mainstream adoption funnel also, because now you are looking into people who are I vaguely recall seeing a flurry of advertisements these days, as in I am a land, which goes, it's an India specific ad which says this guy is a landlord, there's somebody standing in a bakery, and then the communique is he doesn't own an apartment, but he's bought a part of an apartment through a tokenized asset platform. So that guy becomes your potential customer, because then he's the unbanked that you're serving. That's
exactly. Xade serves doesn't matter. See, DeFi, the internet has always been something, a space by the nerds for the nerds. But internet becomes a space, which is by the people for the people. Something same will happen for DeFi. So yeah, somebody needs to open mainstream adoption. So, yeah.
I want to get into a deeper conversation with you regarding this as well. Your predictions. I'm a big fan of the way you predict, project, and justify trends. So we'll get into the elephant in the room as well, the big Balaji Bitcoin bet, and a little bit about how the DeFi market is evolving in terms of user adoption. So one of your challenges as a founder, I mean, if you broadly segregate your challenges as an early stage founder, on one side you have your team building exercises, fundraise, pitching it to the right people, getting your tokenomics in place, getting the right valuation, which is important for someone at your stage. And on the other side, you have user acquisition challenges, building a community, how to make sure that your community educates itself, I mean, word of mouth alone, I would imagine, is not enough. You, in an ideal world, you would want your users to possess the amount of knowledge and clarity regarding Xade Finance that you yourself have as a founder. How are you approaching that challenge? How does the platform or your marketing communication strategy in general aim to overcome that particular challenge, which is the education and awareness challenge? And secondly, let's tackle it one at a time. When you decided to become, now you've established your why and your what led you to become a founder and what exactly you're trying to build. Also, we are yet to get into DerivX and ShopX, but I'm leaving that part for the end. I want to take a segue into this segment. So when you made the decision and when you figured out what you wanted to build, what was the biggest challenge in front of you, which took the hardest amount of time for you to solve as a founder?
What took me the last?
Amongst
Yeah,
everything that I listed out.
as a founder, everything. Team building, how to build a team, how to build the product, how to map out stuff. What should I do first? Where should I give the time? How to get the users, how to convert those users into paying user. A founder's journey, everything is tough. You cannot name which was the toughest thing. But for me,
Since you mentioned team building, this is an interesting area. I mean, it's a highly overlooked area, but Shiv Mehta, who's one of our mentors, he swears by this. This is your, I think, according to him, this is the secret sauce that gets your curry started. So many people who had brilliant ideas with extensive experience in Web2, some of them have raised funds and done successful exits in Web2. We're very curious in terms of figuring out how did you run into your co-founders? Did all of you go to school together? How did you meet? Was there an online interaction? How did you build your core team?
what if I told you, like, it's gonna sound super crazy? I'm a Web3 baby, right? So first of all, I guess me and
That's what we're gonna call this episode, by the way, Web3 baby.
yeah, right. So first of all, I started Xade with one of my friends. Like, he's a prodigy. Like at age 4, I don't think so he learned English, but he learned Python. So yeah, I started with him. He's an excellent coder. Now the question is, how did I get the rest of my team? I'm the guy who the hackathons hate the most. So I went to hackathons, asked the guys, hey, we are building this. And then I used to get the best members out of those hackathons and then got them into my startup instead of, just getting them into the hackathon.
Oh, you hacked the hackathon. That's so beautiful.
Hackathon, exactly. I got all my team members from Discord. You're not gonna believe it. I got my entire team is global. I think we only have 3 members from India. The remaining they're spread all across the world. Somebody's from Russia, somebody's from the US, somebody's from Nigeria. It's completely spread. We got the best talent, right? From Discord, from Telegram. I just got people. I just used to send everybody a cold message, a cold email. Hey, a cold email or a cold message can change your world, to be honest. Hey, we are building Xade Finance. Hey, we are building Xade Finance. We are looking for developer. This is what we are doing. This is what we have achieved. Want to join our team? Then we used to get on a call. If I liked them, they got into the team. And like maybe for a week or two, we figured out things like whether this is working out or not. And then that's how we got our entire team, to be honest.
Was it hard for you to incentivize the opportunity that you were presenting to these people? Like, how did you quantify what's in it for them when you brought people in?
Oh, very good question. Super hard. Yeah, it was super hard. Yeah, that's something.
I know the Bruce Wayne smile, so I know there's a lot of pain behind that. But then this is what hopefully when entrepreneurs of future generations will revisit this video, this is the bit that they'll want to skip forward to and understand.
This is definitely gonna be a pain point always, no matter whether you are a early stage founder, you're a Series A, Series B, or an IPO company. This is always gonna be painful for you. But you got to look at hard stats and how much does a person contribute to your product, and whether how much does the product mean to them, right? Are they willing to do for the company what you are willing to do?
Vector alignment, yes.
Vector, yeah, you need to look at a lot of things which are hard cold stats and things which cannot be explained in numbers. So you got to look at both of those factors.
Who would you say in your team, and you don't have to name them by, I understand if you want to withhold names, but what position rather was the hardest to fill in your company?
Hardest to fill?
Which role?
Okay, so this is not really full-time team member, more of an advisor. This is lawyers.
Okay. Legal. So people who help you out with your incorporation stuff and
moreover legal compliance, how legally compliant you are. And number two, I would like to say the toughest position according to me was a designer. Like I can actually name a designer, like the Xade, like our Xade is.
You have really cracked design, by the way. While we are at it, I usually hand out your website, Xade Finance, as a good reference point for somebody who's trying to understand visual aesthetics. I love the information outflow, the way you even the tiny nuances. Like when you're an early stage company, you really do not have somebody writing it out for you that you need to pay attention to typefaces, but it's very crisp. So okay, so that was one of your tough hires.
Designer, see, like a designer, I'm gonna say he's the one man army. Like
Okay.
Xade, like every time whenever I show anybody a product, the first walk comes at the UI and the user experience. Like, for us, user experience and UI is half the game. Right. So for designer, he was very, very, like, he's very, very experienced. He's awesome. He works around 16, 17 hours a day. He works as much, if not more than me. So our designer, he's really an awesome guy, to be honest. So our legal team and a designer. So yeah.
That's an interesting insight that we can take away. Legal and design were your toughest hires. Okay, so when we look at other challenges that we face, I believe Zaid comes with its own token
It's
on.
yet to launch, but yes, there is the Z token. It's going to launch soon. We don't want to get exposed to market volatility in probably one of the worst bear markets crypto has ever seen. So yeah, it is there, but it is not launched yet. You can buy it using the vested token sale, but it's not available right now. We launch it with a public sale next year, Q1 2024.
So tokenomics is another tricky subject when it comes to somebody who's really trying to launch their own on-chain services. So and one of the biggest challenges that founders generally quote when saying their prime point. So you're not yet at a stage wherein you've had to tackle that problem head on. So it's still some time away.
We actually did. I mean, we actually did. We had to face this.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what was that journey like? How did you get help sorting out your tokenomics challenges?
Yeah, I want to say something. Web3 space, they are literally one of the most helpful. Like, it is literally the most helpful space out there. Right. You want to look at the tokenomics. So I would say two things. Like, we did two things. Number one, we need to understand basic economics. Like, how does the economics look? We needed to look as a consumer, as a trader, more than that as of a product. We needed to look us like we needed to look at a token as how would a trader see it? How would our users see it? We needed to look at it from three. We had to look at it from two perspectives. Number two was understanding the economics and looking at the other models, like products which are similar to ours. Very, very difficult to find. Probably did not find it as well. But we looked at other DeFi protocols. We looked at other projects, how they station their tokenomics. We inspired our tokenomics from them. Now, number two is advisors. Right. So as I said, Web3 space, like, there are very, very helpful people in this space. Everybody is willing to help each other out. That's what we did. We just
Mentorships play a very key role in the building of early stage Web3 companies. So how, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most difficult and 1 being the easiest, and in terms of the number of internet hours that you would spend trying to connect and solicit an actual response from somebody who's a valid mentor or an industry leader, how do you rate that process? Like, how does that scenario stand today? Assuming you do not already have an immediate connect or a level 1 connect with that person, and you're starting from scratch, and you want to get actual insights from somebody who's helped launch a couple of tokens in the market, how difficult is that process today?
I would say, or if it's difficulty from 1 to 10, I would say like how easy it is.
Yeah.
On how easy it is, I would say it's an experience which is an 8 out of 10, right? Because and that's pretty high. The reason being, like, you can just get into communities, ask anybody a question. Hey, I need help with my tokenomics. Please DM. Somebody is gonna DM you. I'm 100% sure. Get into any community. Hey, I need help with tokenomics. Hey, I need help. I want to do a Twitter Spaces. Somebody's gonna DM you, and that's for sure.
So that's you utilized community connects to go ahead and find your mentors.
Like, I mean, for me, like, I utilized communities. I utilized a person who has a connect. So, like, for me, like, for us, we did the tokenomics about, I would say, Feb. So by that time, I had a lot of connects. So yeah.
I remember your team was traveling in bunches. I think two of you attacked one city at a time, and
Yeah.
that must have been an adventure. The other part that I want to understand now, as far as fundraising is concerned, that's that's like 50% of your responsibility as a founder. Where did you start? How accepting or responsive is the Indian investment landscape? How accepting and welcoming are they of young and early stage founders such as yourself? How have you experienced that landscape in general? What's
I'm
it
gonna
like
let
for a new, like, if there's a 16-year-old Harshal sitting in some part of the country today, or a Gaurav or a Rahul or an Anjali who's trying to, who's dreaming of the same solutions as you are, and starting from ground zero, what does the investment landscape appear to them? How did it look to you?
First of all, so we started in a bear market, right? Sort of at the peak of the bear market. It's going to be tough, definitely. Thing is, I would like to say, like any early stage founder, instead of focusing on fundraising, they should focus on the product first. Get customers, not investors, right? So if you get 100 or 150 customers, no matter who is the investor, no matter how old you are, they're going to see something in you. Like getting 150 paying users or getting 100 users or 150 users for who like for example, if you're changing life for 100 or 150 users, I mean, any investor want to come in, right? For Xade personally, we are more of a mass brand. I'm going to let something in. Our customers are our investors. Our customers, like we did a fundraise. I cannot reveal the details. I cannot reveal the details.
That's
But
okay.
all of the people, like the lead investors of Xade, were the people who found out Xade by using the product itself. They heard about the
Oh,
product.
that's interesting. So they became your customers first and investors later.
Exactly.
That's the dream. That's the dream for most people, I believe. So how did you, then a better question to ask you is, you've cracked the user acquisition game, which is another fresh nightmare for most founders. How did you go about that challenge? Like I remember you being very excited about the MVP, one of your mobile apps. I think it was Sabex or Remitex, which was going live that night, the night we met. And how has been your user act journey since then? What steps have you taken in that direction?
Yeah, so that, like the day we met, we launched actually a first version of a web app. So that was actually a first MVP. Right after that, like that was a web version. After that, I think
and that's not too far back as well. That's November last year, November or
exactly.
December. Yeah,
exactly. It doesn't feel like a long time, but for us, it's been 5 months since then. December, it's been 5 months. So in 5 months, we achieved more than we did in, like, I would say 10 months or maybe a year. So that's what we did. We created a mobile application. We just shipped a lot of features, kept our head down. But back to your question about how did we acquire users?
yeah.
So I would like to say acquire quality users. People like to run after numbers, right? 10,000 users, 20,000 users. What they should look after is quality over quantity. An investor doesn't really care if you've got 10,000 users who are on testnet, who are just running after rewards. You get 100 quality users for whom you have changed the life, for who are willing to pay for your services, right? Always go for quality services. Like with Xade, what we did was we wanted to present them with a new experience which they have never experienced in DeFi. Here is some, like, a few things which we did was totally unscalable. We provided 1:1 onboarding calls, right? Nobody does that in DeFi. Number two, what we used to do was we used to just go to communities.
This you borrowed from banks. Traditional banks do the one-on-one onboarding thing a lot. Till date, still, like a Kotak Mahindra bank today will send a guy over to your place to to onboard you as a customer. And yeah, DeFi doesn't do that traditionally. So how many customers did you onboard this way with one-on-one?
I would say I did around 70 calls at least.
Personally.
70,
that's
easy.
That's impressive.
Yeah, 70 calls. Like doing calls, like as a founder, you're gonna waste your time one way or other, right? You're gonna either look after the product, you're either gonna type out something. Better get a paying customer. If you can just give 10 minutes for getting a paying customer, that's 10 minutes well spent, right? So for, like, I always tell my team, whatever you have learned in DeFi, forget it, because it's not gonna help you over here. We gotta reshape DeFi. So you gotta think in the traditional manner of things, right? So that's what we did.
Are you somewhat focused on creating, like, getting a huge chunk of your users from the Indian market, from like Indian digital finance adopters, or is it more of a global approach?
It's a global approach.
Okay. Would such a barrier ever make sense? Like, would you say for a product that is trying to disrupt a nationwide audience specifically, would they have to overcome specific regional challenges, or another way of asking what I'm trying to fathom here is, how did you identify the first quality users? How did you zero down on that list of 70 people that you wanted to call?
Exactly. So over here, so the first thing that you need to do is every great product starts with a niche, right? No matter what we did, our first users always come from DeFi, who are avid DeFi users, who are avid Web3 enthusiasts, right? Like whether you're, like, no matter how mass oriented your product is, adopters are always the first users, right? So first we decided to capture all that. We got into DeFi alpha groups, shilled about a product, got into different tech groups, just do things that are unscalable, things that are unprofessional. But that's how you get users. Like getting your first customer is not really that difficult, to be honest, right? So I just get into communities, talk to people, like one of our first users was somebody I met at a meetup, right? And they was like, yeah, I love this product. So that's how you get users. Pretty
So
seamless.
I
Just
would
talk.
say you would say you did not spend a single dime or dollar in acquiring your first 100 or 150 users.
We have never spent a single dollar by acquiring a first 1,500 paying users or a 20,000 plus active testnet users.
That should go on your first pitch slide. I would lead with that. Okay, so we've covered most of the primary challenges. Now, once you have your company off the ground, you raised your first check, and you're in a position where you're now negotiating your valuation with follow-up lead investors. How do the ongoing team dynamics work in a bear market when you're continuing to build and everybody is sort of speculative about when the next rally will be? I think we're all looking forward to the Ethereum fork, which is just around the corner, and
Yeah.
that's supposed to. How do you keep up team morale in times of a raging silence or raging lull?
I would just say enjoy the small wins. This is tough. It's pathetic, even for me. Like I don't know. I think over the past 2 months where we have been actively fundraising, right? So there are three things which I always say. I think I've hardly slept over the past 2 months. Getting the team morale is very very important, right? So I would like to say three things. Share everything with your team. Everything. Be 100% transparent. Enjoy the small wins, no matter how small the win is. Maybe it's a new paying user, maybe it's NFT sold, maybe it's anything. Enjoy it with the team. Number two, I would like to say is go mass, right? Retail is sort of improving over the VCs, to be honest. In this stage, retail, convert your customers into your investors. Number three, since it's a bear market, focus more on building than raising. Even if you've got very, very less run, like if you've got a month of runaway, extend it to 3 months, 4 months, right? Focus more on building, expand your runaway. Don't think about fundraising. Think about your product. That's how you can go ahead. So, yeah.
Okay, what's Zade's team size like right now, including your full
Get
developer
10
task
members.
force? 10
It's
members.
10.
Great. Do you have plans of, I mean, in as a traditional bank, you would need to like exponentially grow your team size in your fleet to, as you onboard users. You do not face that challenge as a decentralized product today. So 5 years from now or 7 years from now, when DeFi adoption is way more mainstream, and let's say you're not making cold calls anymore, and users, I mean, it's just a question of people telling other people, hey, are you on Zade yet? At that stage, what sustainable team size do you see Zade growing into, like in order to serve the entire world, your share of the market?
Yeah. So regarding that, I would like to compare a startup versus a full size bank, right? Zade is more of a tech company. It's a tech company actually. No matter how much we position ourselves as a financial company, let's say Revolut, for example, Revolut, Monzo, N26, any neobank. At the end of the day, they are a tech company first, then a financial company. I would argue that they are actually a tech company, not a financial company,
True.
right? A bank, they need a lot of people for a lot of reasons. Number one, they're managing all the money by themselves. They're inefficient. That's one of the biggest reasons why they will get replaced. They've got a lot of regulations to comply to. They've got a lot of people who they need to keep happy. You cannot say the same about a tech company. Every startup out there always has a smaller team size. Always has a smaller team size because, to be honest, a smaller team who is properly incentivized, who is I would rather pick a group of 10 talented people over 1,000 mediocre people, to be honest.
And you
Because 10 talent,
probably don't even need 1,000. That's what I was trying to get at. So one important statistic that came out during our whole accelerator launch phase is that NASCOM reported, in fact, that by 2032, Web3 as a space will contribute towards the creation of about 8 lakh jobs, new jobs, which are mostly developer roles in India. So I just want to validate that theory, because nothing is more mainstream in DeFi than what you are trying to build, not to my knowledge. So you would be servicing a huge chunk of internet early adopters from the country, which means if there is a benchmark to look at, Zade is an ideal company to look at scale. Zade is an ideal company to understand what sort of task force you'd be handling. So that prediction, do you see yourself growing into a 200 member team or a 500 member team, or do you see yourself breaching the 1,000 employee mark someday?
well, depends.
Do
Like,
you need to? Would you ever need to? Is the question.
would we ever need to, in terms of marketing and in terms of marketing and business development, you can definitely, that roles, like those roles are something which, which always need to expand, right?
The
And
world
not
will
really
need credit card salesmen. That's a good insight.
exactly salesmen. See, salesmen, marketing guys. For example, I don't understand the Nigerian market as good as I understand, let's say, the American or the Indian market.
Yes, yes.
So marketing, business development, that's something which we may need to expand in. In terms of developers, our team will always be small. I would say
You're
sometime like maximum 30, like right now, most of our teams are most of our team consists of developers. Developers, you don't really need a lot of developers. One quality developer is much better than 10 developers.
any
A
day.
developer is like a chef. So yeah.
So you won't need a lot of chefs and sous chefs. Your operational and development expenditure will never go through the roof. Your expenditure, it's interesting. So you would mostly need, as you expand into new geographies, you would need more sales folk and marketing guys and BD guys. Great. I think, yeah, that's thank you. First of all, I mean, you really, this interview lives up to the concept of Web3, baby. Now coming back to your baby, before we move on to the state of affairs in the world, I want you to talk a little bit about how DerivX is changing the stocks and derivatives market. You mentioned that. So one of the problems and traditional problems in the DeFi trading space is the availability of liquidity. So you are you're trying to change that through DerivX. How?
Right. So first of all, with DerivX, what we're trying to bring in, like this is how we sell DerivX. You can speculate on prices of stocks, commodities, forex, and traditional markets on chain. Now the question would be, hey, you're like SEC will just come knocking on my door. Hey, that's a security. You're not allowed to do that. So first, let me clear that out. So what we do in DerivX is you trade perpetual futures where there is no real exchange of assets taking place. Henceforth, it cannot be classified as a proper derivative. It's a synthetic derivative, right? Now the question is, so if it's not a derivative, now if it's not a security, so let me just clear that out. We have worked for 6 months. It's not a security. We have cleared that out with DerivX. Now with stocks, so you can trade stocks, commodities, forex. Question is, how do we get liquidity for stocks? Right. Now the question is, why do we need stocks on chain? Why do we need to speculate on prices of stocks? Let me share my own story. Right. I was exposed to the crypto markets. You can tell me to name at least 1,000 cryptocurrencies out there. I'll easily name it from the top of my mind. But I'm also exposed to the US stock market. And trust me, getting a US stock license from India is super difficult. And forget it if you're 16. Actually, just forget it, because being a 16-year-old, you cannot get it. But with on-chain, you can actually do that. Right? If you get all of those on-chain, the global exposure of these markets will be limitless. So another question is, how do we get the liquidity for this? We took a very traditional approach. We partnered up with a few traditional brokers who take all the counter positions in DerivX and hedge themselves in the traditional market while being incentivized with the spread and the fees which we give to them. So that's how we maintain the liquidity in our protocol, DerivX. Also, one more thing.
But that does not, so you're saying that does not significantly increase the transaction fees, or it does not create a real deficit amongst in terms of tradable value?
Not really, like, because see, if you're bringing in stocks on chain, anybody who is doing that is already charging like say 0.3%, such as GNS, right? Now, how do they do is, like, it's usually way different from the original price. For example, if a stock is trading at $100, the GNS derivative will trade at somewhere around $105, $107. So that $5 to $7 spread is enough to incentivize the the broker. So yeah.
So in so far in three of your products, what we've understood is you are tying up with real world partners who have traditionally been working with Web2 variants to sort of bring them in as well. So you act as a B2B bridge for the DeFi space in a way. That's an interesting takeaway for us. Okay, I think okay, another aspect that we want to cover. So I never really figured one interesting thing that happened during IBW is there's this really cool company that was giving out these cards. I don't know if you managed to get one. The Satoshi Nakamoto branded black card.
I know. It's called,
And
it's called
GoSats.
Yeah,
GoSats. And I was never able to activate that card because I'm not sure if that was because it's a, everybody got a same number, if it was a dummy prototype, or there was no way for me to link it. But I remember thinking to myself, it would be insanely cool because I use a Binance wallet. Mine, I don't even know if I'm supposed to share what wallet I use on a public platform, but yeah, I use Binance. and I wanted to figure out, or it'd be really cool if I had a physical card or a virtual card that I could use to directly pay for, with my USDT from my spot wallet. Uh, are you doing something that makes this possible, or at least what I'm trying to put across in theory with ShopX?
But to be honest, with ShopX, we have again partnered up with Crypto Refills, and we have partnered up with Marketa. So these two people we have partnered up with. The card is very similar to how Binance card operates, but it's a non-custodial card. It's a non-custodial card. And number two is we have also partnered up with Crypto Refills and as well as Splits Finance. With Splits Finance, it's a very interesting partnership because you can actually pay your bills.
Are there other non-custodial cards in the market?
Yeah, I mean, non-custodial cards, I mean, people are building it, I would say, but it's still under progress. Like, I mean, Visa introduced this concept of non-custodial cards, right? So Visa has done this. I mean, if you want to introduce a card, you need to either partner with Visa or MasterCard, right? So you cannot really help it.
That's another question that I wanted to ask you this directly. I mean, Visa and MasterCard and other traditional finance brands, they operate on a centralized authority model. And they are also trying to today sort of diversify into this space, as you mentioned, somebody trying to come up with a non-custodial shopping card. Do you see such brands and the lines of business that they're starting into the DeFi space today? Do you see them becoming serious threats or becoming serious competition for what you are trying to build today in the next 5 to 10 years? As the space, as there's more, as there is increased adoption, also considering the fact that the advantage that these guys will have over younger players or over newer entrants will be their existing customer base. They already have a user base which has now become accustomed to the idea of digital banking or trading in India. People are transacting on UPI, which was not a thing 10 years ago. But now, do you think there is a serious advantage that these guys can have in terms of transitioning their users one step further into the DeFi space? If so, how do you plan on tackling that challenge as a Web3 first player?
Okay, so I'm going to take an example of Walmart and Amazon.
Okay.
Okay, so first of all, these existing players, they're always going to be a threat. Right now, they're going to be a threat. So whenever new technology comes in, it's never by an existing player, because they always want to play it safe.
Yes.
It always comes up with a startup.
And they will go for acquisitions later, is the thing. That's the
maybe an acquisition. Exactly. Or maybe they launch their product, right? So whenever these existing players launch their product, they immediately become a threat. Similar to how Amazon launched e-commerce, right? Even Walmart has the e-commerce feature. In India, it's called Flipkart, but Walmart has their own native application as well, right? So they are going to always enjoy the existing user base. Now it's depending on the competing startup on how fast they can execute, how fast they can convert this trusted user base of traditional players into their customers, and how slow will these traditional players react. If they react like 10 years later, majority of the customers would have already shifted to alternatives, because people want the best product out there, right? So it's definitely going to be a fierce competition between emerging brands and legacy players. And legacy players needs to, they need to come up soon. Either you need to innovate or you need to die. So that's the game.
I like how you've put this across. Would you say your user acquisition efforts yield better results in a bull market? Like in terms of with changing market sentiment, if people are more inclined to invest in crypto in general over fiat assets, during that stage, have you seen surges like this in the past in terms of user acquisition numbers? Or do you project that your user acquisition genuinely gets impacted if there is a significant rally in the...
Always in a bull market, you always get better responses every day, every time. Like, I mean, even while you're fundraising, while you're making a product, a bull market always helps you out. So yeah,
we're I think we are in the second week of Bitcoin climbing steady, except for I mean, it's like Heisenberg's cat, the volatility of it. But the big conversation that's going on, and I intend on asking this to all my guests in this series now, is what's your take on the Balaji Bitcoin bet? For the unversed, Balaji Srinivasan, ex-CTO of Coinbase, recently made a very bold prediction, which led to massive speculation as to his reasons or motivations behind the bet itself. But he was taken on by James Medlock, in a gentleman's agreement, wherein both parties have now put one BTC and 1 million USDC respectively in escrow. And the verdict is awaited roughly 50 days from now. I think we are a month into the bet already. And the prediction was that within 90 days, the value of one Bitcoin will equal 1 million US dollars, owing to a market rally for BTC itself and a simultaneous devaluation of the US dollar due to hyperinflation. So I remember having a brief 5-minute telephonic conversation on the subject, but I want you to take a proper dig at it. What do you think is going to be the most likely outcome? And also, if you're so inclined, a little bit about your theories on why this bet was floated in the first place.
First of all, the answer is no.
Thank you.
US won't enter into hyperinflation. Bitcoin won't hit $1 million in 90 days. If it does, the world will probably end. We will enter into Armageddon. There will be riots all around. We don't want that, and it's not a science fiction movie. Very, very improbable that will happen. So let me first clear that out. Number two is Balaji Srinivasan took this bet. I would say, like, what is $1 million to Balaji Srinivasan? Look at how much Bitcoin he holds. Let's look at that first, right? Look at how much Bitcoin he holds, and even if, like, even with his comments, even if Bitcoin goes up by 10%, right? He must have made more than $1 million. So that's the monetary side of things. Number two is, look at how much he has been in the limelight after this. I mean, we're talking about Balaji Srinivasan, right? When was the last time you popped into a conversation instead of the the network state?
So it's a calculated risk for PR, which does not really cause him a financial loss as such. Even, in the worst case scenario, he still manages to probably break even. Is what you're getting at.
The worst case scenario, manages to make at least 10 mil. It's a good PR for him. It's a lot of PR for him. Doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative, because PR is PR. No,
it
doesn't
brings
matter.
Yes, it does bring him back in terms of the number of mentions that he's been getting. He got featured in Forbes regarding this. So that's a polarizing statement. But what's your take on the trend? So I remember asking a couple of other people who said that not 90 days, but 9 years maybe. Do you see the value of BTC going up to $1 million in the next decade?
The value of Bitcoin depends on what the people give to them, right? For now people consider Bitcoin to be digital gold, right? Does it, like, we don't know whether it's gonna be the digital gold, whether it's not gonna remain the digital gold, right? The value of Bitcoin is what the people give to Bitcoin. Utility wise, Bitcoin, there are much better alternatives to Bitcoin right now, right? So utility wise, not really.
But also environmentally, unless I'm mistaken, the ongoing conversation suggests that Bitcoin mining and the transactions, trading operations, underlying architecture of Bitcoin is not the most environment friendly on the planet, and that there are better alternatives coming out. Do you think this also factors into the overall price dynamics of Bitcoin?
I mean, I guess to an extent. So yeah.
So you're saying there is no certainty with which one can today state that even in a decade's time Bitcoin goes up to that price. It's not
I mean, in 2008, if somebody would have asked me, like, would Bitcoin be, like, if somebody would have told a person who had just bought Bitcoin will touch $30,000 by 2023 or $69,000 by 2022.
Yeah,
the person would have said, like, nobody would have believed that. Come on. Similarly, speculation of price of an asset doesn't, like, nobody knows. Like, I mean, the price of a volatile asset such as a cryptocurrency cannot be predicted. But I'm going to make a prediction about the US dollar. The US dollar is not going to be the reserve currency of the world. And I like cold hard stats, right? So I'm going to just come to this. The US is losing its dominance as the world's #1 country. BRICS is already powerful than G7. People are already, like, literally the entire world is shifting from US dominance. Nobody wants US to be the dominant country anymore, right? Why should everything be decided by the US? But there are more emerging economies such as China, Russia, India. So yeah.
So as the world's preferred reserve currency changes from USD, what is it shifting towards right now?
China is the king. So like, people are just trying to be more self-sufficient, to be honest. India is settling trades in INR. Saudi Arabia has abandoned the US dollar. China, it's like Brazil is already, removing dollar from its reserves, instead putting in the Chinese currencies. So that's what's happening. Everybody's becoming self-sufficient. There is no proper alternative yet. But yeah, the US dollar is definitely not going to be the reserve currency anymore.
So I realize how futile this makes my subsequent question. But what I was about to ask you is on the note of sound financial advice. When people talk about cryptocurrencies and entering the DeFi space as such, that's the one thing that they seek: sound and credible financial advice in terms of what are the assets worth investing in. It's a big question for somebody who's making their first move into crypto in this day and age, wherein things have, if not changed dramatically or drastically, changed significantly in terms of both UI, the availability of coins, and a history of price fluctuations. So, if you were to make a couple of suggestions towards somebody who is potentially your user or a potential Xade user in the future, who is thinking about entering the DeFi space, shifting their focus from traditional fiat assets and real world assets into cryptocurrencies, what is a good starting point? What are some good communities and portals to follow for sound financial advice?
For sound financial advice, nobody in the space is going to provide you with financial advice. Everybody is just going to shill out whoever has paid them to do so. And
I
they're
know
just going to,
when we did a research on keyword studies, when you search for financial advice in the Web3 space, the highest concentration of it is in the statement, "This is not financial advice," as
right,
a disclaimer.
right. And for example, if they give a financial advice, the coin goes down by 99.9%. DYOR, do your own research, right? So
Research still
definitely,
counts. I hope you understand where the dilemma is kicking in for a user who is not technically the earliest Web3 adopter. Maybe somebody who is confident about somebody who hears about your product, Phil, gets through your awareness funnel, somebody who is interested in learning more about this space, and they want to start their journey into research. What are some key, and not somebody who's in the tech space, somebody who's an investor, somebody who wants to approach this from a user's perspective today, what are some avenues where they can begin to do their research other than friends and family?
exactly. So I never got any information from friends and family. My only source was the internet, right? I usually give information to my friends and family, but my source is always the internet. Now the first thing is, when we want to learn something, what do? We first do a quick Google search. Then we probably go to YouTube. Bitcoin Explained. What's the first video you get? It's either from Findmatic, it's either from Crypto Explained, right? And you get started with YouTube. After that, it's just a rabbit hole. You just get you just dive deeper into it. You see YouTube videos, you read blogs. Just a simple Google search, right? You have got three major avenues today: YouTube, ChatGPT, and Google. You don't need anything else. Just search up DeFi Explained in YouTube, ask ChatGPT what it means, and you'll just get started.
I like the second answer a lot. So I've been doing this experimentation with ChatGPT prompts, asking ChatGPT to teach me everything as if I was five. And yeah, I'm going to try and take that approach as well in terms of explaining DeFi. But the other thing is, yeah, as AI expands, I'm sure AI assisted research will also play a good role in sort of solving this challenge for people. Do you see any potential integrations? A lot of people are talking about the sudden emergence and sudden this rapid curve that is coming in terms of the expansion of AI. Like the last meme I read on the subject said that ChatGPT is Skynet. You just don't see it yet. And do you think AI interfaces play a big role in your ongoing evolution? As in, would you do you see the possibility of integrating an AI-led interface into your trading platforms to simplify
AI,
this process?
AI definitely. I mean, we definitely, AI will always be required. Crypto and AI don't really go side by side. AI is required in Web3 and DeFi as much as it is required in other spaces, right? So yeah, I mean, definitely AI is something which we are definitely looking to integrate. Maybe as a customer support, maybe as reading chart patterns, maybe as suggesting investment strategies. There are a lot of avenues in which we can integrate AI, right? So yeah.
Good. I think that pretty much sums up the questions that I had. Again, thank you for giving me a cool Web3 baby episode for the first edition of what I hope turns out into a decent talk show. And this episode will be available through the Graviton YouTube channel once the produced version is ready, and through our Twitter handle. A big shout out to your team for sticking by you and making sure that we ended up having this conversation. I look forward to having a few more of these with you as we go on. and I'll probably try and bring you along. So one of my dreams is to go ahead and have a sort of panel discussion with you and someone equally charismatic who I have in mind, but who's from a different generation altogether. So let me see if I can make that happen, and we'll do another episode on that soon. Anything you want to leave our viewers with in terms of a message or a call out from your side or from Xade Finance?
Well, definitely. I just talked about Xade a lot. Just check out Xade, yeah. Just search up Xade, Xade, in Google, the first search result, and just download our application. Just start using it. So yeah, that's about it.
Guys, seriously, check out Finance. It's a great starting point for understanding what a Web3 product should really look like. I was blown away the first time I saw it, and I continue to get impressed. Harshal gave us a brief glimpse of the mobile application today, and I saw the attention to detail, visual aesthetics is a pretty and yeah, it shows. You said your designer was your toughest hire. Great. We'll come back to you soon enough with some more questions, following the publication of this episode, so we can do another one of these sessions pretty soon. Guys, whoever's watching this, please do not forget to follow the Graviton Twitter handle as well. I still want to do my plug. Go to twitter.com/join Graviton to stay up to date about what we are trying to achieve in our feed, in our interactions with the Web3 space in India. We're really trying to connect with as many early stage Indian founders as possible in this journey, and understand what their challenges are. If you are an early stage founder, feel free to reach out to us via the Join Graviton handle, and maybe we can schedule a conversation surrounding challenges specific to your sector or the segment that you're trying to disrupt in. And keep building, keep disrupting, keep imagining a decentralized future, and make it happen.